your God-given purpose is your calling, the calling of God for your life. And let me say this to you. God calls men into an assignment only when there is need. Only when there is need. So the calling of God comes to us when God sees a need. When God sees a need. God knows that there is a need of a doctor in that environment. Therefore, while you were born, He has already ordained you to become a doctor. There is a need. So we are all created with intention to fulfill a purpose. You were not created to just be, carrying certificate that will work. You were created by God to fulfill a purpose in a particular location. Even as a doctor, if you go and ask God, Lord, where should I go and do or build my hospital? Where should I go and build hospital to treatment? If we begin to pray like that, you will discover that it is not every locality you should have your hospital. You will see that God will begin to send some of us to go and build that beautiful hospital you want to build in the city. God will begin to lead you to go and build it in a very remote village. If we say we want to walk according to the calling of God, you see, most of these edifices we have in the city, we have it scattered in many villages. Because if we say we want to do it in the way of God, that God has called you to be a doctor, and now you want to build your hospital, you will see that God will communicate to you that you should take it to a very remote village to go and do it there. The problem we are having is that many things, 99% of the things we are doing as Christians, we are doing it without seeking the calling of God, without seeking the direction of God. So God calls men when there is need for that. He said, and I sought for a man and I find none. He sought for a man. God called the person of Samuel because there was a need of prophets in the land. So God never created you for a purpose by mistake. You are not like a mistake that happened or an accidental mistake or happening. No, you were intentionally created by God. If God never wanted you to come to earth, you would have died in your mother's womb, or you would have died before now. So the calling of God for mankind is so important that we should never take it for granted. So we are going to talk about the person of Abraham. We are going to consider the calling of Abraham, and then we are going to use it as a platform for exhortation. In the book of Genesis chapter 12, I read verse 1 to verse 4. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1 to verse 4. Now the Lord has said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. Now the Lord has said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country. We discover that the calling of God on Abraham's life was so detailed and specific. Come out from your father's country. Come out of thy country. It is not a thing of just go and preach. It is not a thing of just go to another land. I want to establish a covenant with you. God had to first of all disconnect him. Come out of thy father's country. Come out from thy kindred. Come out from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation. This is God giving him the detail of his calling. This is God giving him the detail of his assignment. So God didn't call Abraham to go and preach. He called Abraham to establish a nation. So the purpose God called Abraham was not to go and preach, was not to bring any deliverance to anybody. God called Abraham for the purpose of establishing a nation with Abraham. So God wanted to establish a nation. So he needed a man from whose loins he will create kings. He will make out kings and queens. From whose loins is going to make nations. And Abraham was founded. Abraham was a man. So we discovered that the calling of God to Abraham here, number one, was a separation from his country, and God giving him a detailed information about what he intends to do with Abraham. Verse 2, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. Verse 3, and I will bless them that bless thee, and cause him that causeth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. You see how enormous the calling of Abraham was. It was so great, so enormous. You know, sometimes we say we want to be like Abraham. Abraham was come to establish a nation. God will not call you to establish a nation, in case you don't know. So that when God gives you an assignment and your assignment is so enormous, there are some encounter that validates it. So not every one of us will have the calling of Abraham, but we should find the principle that was followed. We saw that Abraham had a vision that God called him, and God called him to make a nation. In fact, God is like God was telling Abraham, leave your country. There's a country that I want to make with you. Leave your country. There's a country outside your country that I want to make with you. So when Abraham left, let us read verse 4. So Abraham departed, and the Lord has spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. So when Abraham was leaving, you would think that Abraham left with a complete message. No. When God calls you, he will not give you a complete message. Because if you are waiting for you to get the full detail before you leave, you will not leave at all. So what God does is that it would allow you to receive just the entrance of the message. And if you can run with that entrance of the message by faith and with faith, it's going to reveal it as you keep going. Hebrews chapter 11 verse 8. Hebrews 11 verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into a place which he should, after received for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went